comment. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call Gary up.
Right now, just excuse me here for a moment.
Public comment.
Just need you more. Oops. Can you hear me? Yeah.
No. You have to do 75.
Really? 75? Since it's a local court? So try it again.
You shouldn't have to dial. You should just dial 9 and then the
Just,
899 or 890 or the 821.
all right.
Didn't seem to want to connect.
Please leave your message for.
Hello, Gary, are you there? Are you there, Gary? Gary, can you hear me?
Texas.
It's his message.
That's his voice.
He's not available. What are we checking? That's the only number, 8210318 is what you had, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we'll give her a try a little later. Anyway, so we've gone through our, well, right before we open up the meeting this evening, I would like to allude to a few remarks. It's been brought to my attention, and I welcome everybody that's here in attendance, both online as those here in person, that public comment is designed for anybody that has or wants to address the commission with any issue that is related to the functions of this commission should be done under public comment. Previous meetings, it was brought to my attention that there's been information that we keep going over redundant. And so if there's any comment that needs to be done, you've seen the items on the agenda that under public comment that you want to address, you need to know about so the commission can formally pursue and conduct its business under a structured manner. Now, having said that, well, I'll comment a little further. So is there anybody that wants to talk in regards to the items in the agenda? Now is the time to do it. Now, just to clarify one point, the employees and employees only will be allowed to ask questions after we get to a certain item. So if you need to address the commission, it needs to be done now. This meeting to order. Mary, read the roll, please.
Here.
Okay, so we move on to item number 3, item A, introduction of police officers. Andy?
Thank you, Mayor. I would invite Chief Hayes to introduce our two members of the Detroit Police Department.
Hello, it's my first time speaking to y'all. Before I start the introductions, I would like to say that it's an honor to be able to represent the city in the capacity of police chief, and I think we're really moving forward at this point. So, with that being said, we were in the middle of the process when I got promoted, so I got to finish out bringing these two people to our family. So this is Kaylee Luther, and this is Tanner Fiesel, and you'll be seeing them a lot. They will be going to the police academy on November 9th. So they're set up to go, both of them, on the 9th. So it's going to be it was a long process to get them here, and then it'll be another long process to continue their education. And Then they'll go through FTO, which is another long process, but it'll be worth it. I'm really happy to have them, and you know, it's been what, a week now, and
Your recording has reached the maximum.
well, he got that much out of it. But it'll be a pleasure to watch them grow and watch them serve this community alongside of us. So I wanted to publicly welcome them.
Well, Officer Luther and Cecil, we welcome you to the force. Thank you for stepping up. I know that this is a challenging job, but Frankie has taken place to hire you. I think he's got confidence. I think you'll be a great addition to the city of Goodland.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give a applause. Okay, moving on to item B. We're going to address a health insurance presentation. That's basically what it is, a presentation. Mr. Longcoffer will take the place. I would also remind the employees that right after he makes his presentation, he will welcome any questions in regards to the presentation that he's going to make. So, Robert, without any further introduction, would you please take the microphone and introduce yourself?
I will. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Bob Langhofer. I'm with USI Insurance Services. On the line with me tonight is Sally Tatro with USI. She'll be joining us on screen here momentarily. I believe we have a WebEx that's been brought up. There she is. Hi, Sally.
Hi there, how are you all?
Good. Thank you. So I want to start just by getting a little background on how it is that I came to the City of Goodland to address the commission tonight. By the way, thank you very much for having me. That journey actually started back in 1994 when I started working with Cowley County Community College, now it's called Cowley College, in managing the risk under their employee benefit program. And in the process of that, I had the opportunity to deal with Ben Shears as an employee benefit committee member at the time. And when Ben made the transition to president of Northwest Tech, he called me and said, we need some help. Can you help us on our employee benefit program? And that has really led, believe it or not, 26 years ago now, it's hard to believe, 26 years ago, that really has led us to having a discussion this evening. I want to give you just a couple of overviews. Sometimes when we think about employee benefit programs or health insurance in general, we get the impression that those that help design our plans are really there to help shop for insurance. And that is true. What USI does for its clients is help shop for insurance, but you really can't limit it to that, because what we ultimately do is we help manage the risks under your employee benefit program. And in this room, there are a lot of different stakeholders in the program, and there are a lot of individuals and entities within the city that have an interest in the benefit program and have risk associated with the plans. So, for example, the plan participants or the city employees, their spouses, and the dependents that are covered in the plan, the risk that they have is in terms of what their deductible is, what their co-insurance is, and if anything comes out of their paycheck for the cost of insurance, those are the risks that they have along, with the plan. In addition to that, having a good understanding of how their insurance operates. And the period of time that we're in, not only in the state of Kansas, in the city of Goodland, but across the country, where we have additional stress associated with health care and the quality of our benefit programs, it's absolutely imperative that everyone has a good understanding of how their plan works so that when they require medical care, they can achieve the appropriate medical care for their family and understand ultimately what their out-of-pocket is going to be. For the individuals on staff with the city that manage the programs, your human resources department, they have risks associated with the jobs that they do. They have to make sure that what's being communicated is compliant. They have to make sure that the individuals that they are looking to hire as employees for the city, and ultimately, even when that individual terminates their relationship with the city, there are risks all along the way. What kind of notices they are given. Not only when they start, but also if ultimately they end up going on COBRA. And ultimately, as employees, they understand that there's a balance between the cost and the benefits under the plan, and your human resources team is right in the middle of that. And on the finance side, and the city side, you as commissioners have to be able to balance the cost of the program and ultimately be accountable to the individuals that pay the program, and that's the taxpayer. So throughout that process, oftentimes, there is going to be difficulty in managing the risks of the different stakeholders, but that's ultimately what we do. And in the process of that, we also shop for insurance, and we negotiate with the insurance carriers, and we make sure that the contracts are structured appropriately for all of the risk holders under the plan. I want to give you just a quick quote by Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln said that you cannot elevate the wage earner by pulling the wage payer down. And I mention that only because as a result of COVID, we have seen with all of the entities that we work with, difficulty from a revenue perspective. When tax revenue goes down or property values go down, it has an impact on the local economy. When businesses don't have employees coming to work because they're quarantined, or simply the business doesn't have enough business to drive forward through the downturn in the economy, it affects everybody. And so being able to manage all that at a time when we see health insurance continuing to go up significantly, it becomes a fairly big challenge. So that kind of gives you an idea as to what we do. I'd like, if you would, to pull up the capability presentation or the summary, and in your packets, commissioners, you're going to find that on the left-hand side of your folder. And I want to give you just a brief snapshot as to who USI is. I've defined what we do, but now I want to tell you a little bit about who we are, and then ultimately we'll look at how we do it. So if you look at slide number 3 or page number 3 in your presentation, you're going to see that USI is an organization. We have roughly 200 offices across the country. We have 8,000 employees across the country. And we evaluate and we manage risk in 5 major areas. On the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see commercial insurance, which is property, casualty, and liability insurance, employee benefits, personal risk, and then individual programs, and then finally retirement consulting. When you look at page number 4, or slide 4, gives you a little bit of insight into who we are from a cultural perspective. And I want to draw your attention over to the right-hand side of the page. You're going to see a snippet from Forbes in 2019, now in 2020. In 2018 as well, USI was recognized as one of America's best large employers, and that's evaluated not only from our clients, but also from an employee perspective. So when we talk about clients being in the governmental business like you are, and as a governmental entity, there are certain things that are characteristic and unique about you that are different than maybe what we would see in the private sector. And just by quick way of assimilation, I mentioned to you that we work with Northwest Tech. We also work with Topeka School District. I've worked with the City of Manhattan for many, many years. In 2016, we started working with the City of McPherson, and we can go on and on about the public entities that we work with out of our office in Wichita. On page number 5, it really starts to get into a lot of it gets into a description as to how we actually go about managing the risk, and we're going to give you a little bit more of a snapshot here in just a second. But on in the middle of the screen, you're going to see something that is referred to as Omni, and you'll see proprietary analytics in that circular graph. The Omni in and of itself really becomes the heartbeat of what we do and how we do it. The Omni system is a system that all of our benefit consultants like Sally and I use nationally from California to New York. And that system
projects they can insert into their program, because we will be asking for discretionary funds, because what you have on your second sheet The little yellow boxes at the bottom are what you have in your bank right now. So you can see right now, currently you have 580,000 in your bank, but that bank will get drained to zero with this 523 project. So we're gonna have to build up a couple years before they'll fund another project. And once again, you'll see that it's not gonna be near enough project to extend runway 1230. So once again, we'll be fighting for discretionary funding with all the 4 states in the central region. So it'll just go into the pot, and we'll have to, you know, try to get the money in a couple years for that runway extension. That's why we put it out in 2024. It allows the city to build back your bank, not only this bank, but also in talking to Mary, it allows you to build up your 10% match bank too over a couple years before we even think about doing that next project. So the projects in the light green boxes, those are years 6 through 10. We don't have to prioritize those anymore. That we just kind of get to put a range, and then everything else that's in the white boxes is years 11 through 20. The reason it's important to keep all those projects on there is we have to keep at least $1.5 million worth of projects on this sheet as a whole to continue to receive the $150,000 per year entitlement funds. So we keep way more than that on there in case they ever say, no, that project's not eligible, we're still well above the threshold. So this years 11 through 20, those are the wish list items that, yes, we want to get at some point, but they're obviously not the high priorities for the airport board. So, any other questions?
Any questions for Darren?
It's the very first meeting of last year. I know we approved the, what was it, the long-term airport
The
Five-year
yeah,
plan?
Is this all, I didn't get a chance to go back and look at it. Is this all fall in line with that still, or are things?
So if we want to put something on here that's not on there, we kind of have to get pre-approval from Kansas City. They're going to want to know about it, why we're trying to insert something that wasn't on the master plan. Yes, everything that's on here is on the master plan, with the exception of one of the items down here. It's in the light green boxes in years 6 to 10. Acquire snow removal equipment. Stuff like that's not shown on the master plan. Equipment type stuff usually doesn't show up on the master plan. Master plan is more for physical things like
Permanent
runways,
structure type
taxiways,
things.
hangars.
Yeah.
So if you look in all the dark green, light green, and even part of the white, all of those are stuff that was on the master plan that generates over onto this.
Okay.
And so the 523 extension runway, so is there a kind of a formatted timetable in which we'll be able, when do we start this project?
Well, that's what I was saying. We're going to have it out to bid here yet this spring. We have to have it bid openings and a grant application back up to them by, I think it's June 1st. Look at it, it's sometime later this spring, early summer. Then that project kind of sets on hold. We can't officially award it to the contractor. We can award it to the low bidder, but they can't get started on it until the FAA gets the money from Congress. So it all depends on when that money is earmarked for the city of Goodland. They can't route it to somebody else for something else. But when Congress decides to fund the FAA for the year in full, that's when that money will flow down to actually come clear down to the city of Goodland. And a contractor can't start work until that action happens. So if Congress waits till the last day of the federal FY, September 30th, then we can't officially let a contractor think about getting started until after September 30th. If for some reason Congress lets it flow February 1st, then we could actually start work as soon as we open bids in May. But I've been doing airports now for 22 years here in Kansas, and never has Congress flown money before the last 3 months of a year.
And that was a 90-10?
This is all 90-10.
10, yeah. All right, any other questions for Darren? And the board has been actively involved in the decision making and feel comfortable with everything? Yeah, okay. If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the FYI 21 airport Airport Capital Improvement Plan with EBH.
I'll move.
Have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Thompson. Do I have a second? A second by Commissioner Contingent.
One correction, FY '22.
Halfway.
It says FY '21 on your agenda,
Okay.
but it's actually the FY '22 plan, because we're always looking at a full year for the feds. So this is actually the FY
Showing it's
'22.
for FY '22. So I have a motion by Commissioner Thompson, second by Ferris. Any other questions or concerns? Mary, read the roll.
Ferris,
Yes.
Brumbaugh, Howard,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
like I said, the change order for that taxiway B will be coming here at one of the next upcoming meetings.
Right.
So just so you know that one's coming for you, so.
Okay,
But it's already funded by KDOT.
All right.
So,
we'll be looking for that.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Derek. Okay, we move on to item
Okay.
number 5.
While we're in the
Yeah.
formal action area,
Sure.
if I could bring something up. This was omitted from the agenda, but first meeting of the year, we are technically supposed to nominate and elect the new mayor and vice mayor of the commission. I brought that question up this afternoon, and it was then sent off to Sherry Fairbanks, who was our current acting attorney for the day, because Jake was out. And he said his opinion was that we should not add it to the agenda because there wasn't sufficient time to modify it and put it out to the public. My thoughts on that are, our ordinances say that it's supposed to happen today.
Sure.
We did not have time to change it and put it out to the public, but as far as Kansas Open Meeting Act requirements go, we don't have to. So I feel like we should go ahead and move forward tonight with the nominating and selecting of the mayor and vice mayor.
Okay,
Council.
I nominate Aaron Thompson.
Yeah, first you have to have a consensus
Yeah.
on whether to do it,
Well,
because the way it states there, you can hold it. I mean, if you read that article again on the Open Meetings Act.
So it says, so on this part here, it says under the agendas may be amended during the meeting unless there is a statute or rule prohibiting amendment. It does not say that I see a specific way that you have to amend the agenda, other than probably, just
Right.
consensus of the commission if that's what we want to do.
So we have, I have no issue with it, guys. We, you have my consensus to do it. So, I don't have any problem.
Unfortunately, JD is not here.
Yeah.
To do it, but it is written in our ordinances that way that it is done this meeting, and I feel like we should follow through with that.
Okay, so you have a motion on the floor?
I second.
So I have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
He
Mo-
moved. I'll move to nominate you.
To nominate,
So the consensus was made,
sure,
and we are now.
yeah. Mhm. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Absolutely. Okay. Have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Any other questions or concerns? Mary, read the roll.
Thompson,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Garcia, or Ferris,
No.
Garcia.
No. Okay, so we have, motion has split, so we will come back, put it officially on your, and we will allow, before we go there, is there any other motions that need to be made?
Make a motion, we keep John as the mayor.
So I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ferris. Is there a second? If not, I will second the motion myself. Mary, read the roll.
Ferris,
Yes.
Howard,
No.
Thompson, Brumbaugh, Garcia.
Yes. Okay, so we have a split motion, so we will bring it back at the next meeting. and allow Mr. Brombaugh to do the tiebreaker. Okay, any other questions or concerns there? Once we move that, we take the agenda back to item 5, discussion items, medical insurance consultant services, health.
All right, this is probably not what anybody expected to start with. As you can see, I've written in my communication form that the issue here was brokerage services that's been talked about for a year, perhaps 6 months, perhaps a year. I would like to do a more thorough evaluation process of all of this. I've had a lot of conversations with providers, including PIC, about this issue, and I have communicated with them that my desire would be to have a comprehensive RFP process to determine if we can combine all of our insurance services or if they need to remain separate. The only way I can adequately do that is to prepare an RFP that provides a format for people to formally respond to our request so that we have it in writing for them. And as you can see, the idea tonight was to have a recommendation from me and a discussion and then formal action on the 18th. What I'm proposing is that 2 recommendations. First, to allow us to have a more expansive RFP process. And the second part of it is to, because we're under the gun here a little bit for renewal of what we currently have, to allow me to have our current broker prepare that and bring that back to us. I'm going to be a little long-winded about this, so forgive me. I've given a suggested motion for you to consider to that end, and here's why I think I'm asking this. If you look at the spreadsheet that I prepared for you that says personnel cost 2020. I've tried to, it's not enumerated in our budget, but I've tried to prepare this for you here so that you can see. And this is one of the factors for me that doesn't really provide clarity for me in terms of the current system we have in place. I know there's concerns with costs and but really evaluating what do those costs look like comparatively. I know that we have a budget, I know that we have constraints, and it doesn't necessarily fit into what anybody else is doing or what they're thinking. But you can see that our total personnel costs across the entire organization are just north of 3.9 million, approaching 4 million, in about a $14 million budget. So the first column is salary. Our total salary, just the salary part of it, what people get paid hourly, is 2.4 million. And of our total personnel costs, salary alone is 61%. That's what that percentage means. The next one is FICA, it's about 5%. Medicare is 0.08%. Federal taxes based on different filing status and so forth is about 5%. State taxes are 2%. Capers are 5%. The interesting one for us is the medical insurance. You can see that medical insurance takes about 20% of the total personnel budget. Is that a bad number? I can't tell you on a comparative basis if that's a good number or a bad number. Is 61% of the salary cost of all personnel good or bad? I can't tell you that. What I need to do is I need to do some more research on that. I tried desperately to get to you some comparative data from other jurisdictions, but I was unable to find that data in these exact categories. For example, so you would know, if we're spending 20% of our total personnel costs on medical, and another community spending 40, or another community spending 5, and they're getting the same thing, how does that compare to us? How do we look at that and make a value judgment about how we're doing? That's just one complicating factor in this. So I've provided those numbers to you, and you can see that each budget in general government, the cost and what percentage of staff that particular division has, 8.7% in general government, and it takes 9.4% of the cost of personnel to run general government. And you can see how those numbers run for each division. Of course, obviously the largest division is the electric division, so their numbers take a significant leap, along with the police department and streets and alleys make up the bulk of all of our costs. Not picking on you fellas, just pointing out what's there. The other thing in your packet is you have two sheets that you've seen these before. These are the same ones that Ms. Fernandez brought from PIC. My recommendation is that we renew our current grandfather plan, not at the max cost, but at the expected cost. The expected costs, if you go back to your sheet, the expected costs keep us within the $807,000 that have already been budgeted for medical insurance. So it keeps us within that. The budget has already been approved, we're fine. And I think our number comes in at 775, and while that has an employee funding in there, I don't think that's, as I recall, that number is not supposed to be in there. So it comes in about 775, but I'll verify that for you. And the final approval for that will come back to you from Ms. Fernandez and PIC, so that you can, you'll make that approval. Here's another thing I've done over the last month or so. I have gone through a number of orchestrations of possibilities for us. Expected funding, self-funding, fully insured, raising our stop loss a couple of different times. There's some other measures that we can take. But in order to evaluate that properly, I need to put that on paper and let somebody respond to it. And then my plan would be that RFP gets written. I have a couple of samples of that already. RFP gets written, it goes out, people respond to it. We bring it in, we evaluate, we pick the path that we want to go. We make notifications if we have to for providers. And that kind of winds up the bulk of the year, noting that when we start preparing the 2021 budget, we are going to contemplate the preparation of that budget with, I'll say, potentially a new system in place. Do we go fully insured and have a third-party administrator? There are a lot of complicating factors in all of this, and so I'd like to get it right. The other issue that you're going to have to consider is, and I know nobody wants to hear this, you know, employee contributions to the plan. If you decide to go in that direction and that makes sense for us, what does that look like? You know, is it 5% a year for the next 5 years, or is it 4% a year for the next 5 years? What does that look like to keep us within a cost parameter that we can deal with? I've said this before. I think that part of the issue here is it looks like you have a wall here, and that's your income, and there's this thing coming at you, and you can't move this wall. This is the only one that's moving, and it's getting closer. And I know it's kind of a daunting thing to think about. So I'd like to have the time to get it right requesting some latitude on your part to do this RFP and then examine closely what we want to do for the future, knowing that no matter what we do, there will be a system in place in the next budget year that we all are comfortable with.
You're talking for the 2022 budget.
Yes,
2022 budget.
yes, because 21's already been
Yeah.
approved.
Are we
Thoughts from the commission?
807,000? Is that for sure the budget amount that we had? Because honestly, that sounds a little low from what my memory.
I actually think it's 890.
Yeah, 890 is what it
It's
says right here.
it's 890, but I took the numbers that I have in my spreadsheet are from that I received from Human Resources in terms of the breakdown and everything. And I think on the 807, it was a little bit off on the number. But that's what the sheet that I got, that's what all the numbers added up to. But it's 890.
So is
What
go ahead.
So what we actually budgeted for this year's budget was 890.
For 2021.
Yes. Okay.
It was a
Or,
little over that. wasn't
I'm
it?
sorry. These are the numbers.
Yeah, these
For
are, so these
2020.
are, yeah.
This
for-
number's
This is
right.
the renewal numbers.
This is,
I'm trying to clarify what our budget.
our budget for 2020 is the 807,000, because the spreadsheet you're looking at is from 2020. And in the 21 budget, I think you budgeted 890,000.
What Aaron is asking, do you remember that number, Mary? I think it was over 890,000 that we allocated. Huh?
It wasn't very much higher than that.
I think it was.
You threw a bunch of numbers around, but it's right around there.
Yeah, it's.
So you might get that number to Alan specifically, so, that's the
I
question
believe-
you're asking.
Yeah.
You want to know the number.
Because I know we
had
ended up doing like 11.5%
Yeah.
over last year or something
Right.
weird like that.
Yeah.
What we budgeted.
This sheet was just an attempt to illustrate 2020 breakdowns in terms of what you're spending on each category. And then the coming budget is 890, and I think there was a provision, it might have been the previous year, for in terms of the property and casualty, you had to pay an additional amount to fund the electric for the
Are you talking about the engine policy?
Yes.
The property and casualty is totally different than
Yeah,
this.
and the insurance.
Understand.
health insurance.
understand, but I was trying to include all those numbers in here. But 890 is your numbers, I remember. But I'll get you the exact number. I'll email it to you.
Okay, so technically, we should be properly budgeted for the current renewal of what it is now, if that's the way we want it to go,
Yes,
2021,
with the max funding and the city paying 100%.
yes.
I do know we also have the option, the minimum we could go for the expected funding is a 775, and we could go anywhere between that and the 890 if we wanted to, and it would just adjust how much we're putting into our fund. What we also have to consider with this is, we currently have just under $350,000 in our self-insurance fund, and that fund that we put into that is, help to cover the stop loss with the insurance, which has a maximum of $30K a month on the renewal here. So technically speaking, maximum that we would pay out of our pocket would be $360,000 for the year if we hit that $30,000 every month. That's probably not going to happen,
Yeah.
but we have to consider that we need to continue to build up this fund if that's the direction we're going to go. Because we've been in this in year 5, I believe. I talked to Rhonda today. She told me she thought we were in year 5 of this. So if the self-funding is the way we're going to go, we just need to remember that we still need to continue to bump that up until we hit a certain amount. I believe 500,000 is what the commission initially decided on when they started to go this way, is what they wanted to be able to sit in that fund once it's fully funded to that extent, and then you can just pay the expected amount moving forward after that. So just food for thought there.
What do we have, 309,000 in that self-funded fund, Mary? About
He
309?
was right, it's 349 something.
Yeah. Well, so what you're asking is for consensus to pursue and evaluate the whole scope of the situation and bring us a recommendation on what's going to be the January 19th, because the 18th is the holiday, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna bring you that recommendation on the 19th. What I'm asking for is the latitude to begin a process,
Sure. Okay.
a more thorough, comprehensive process.
Yeah, so he's wanting us to make a decision on the insurance and then also permission to look into it for next year.
For the 2022 budget.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any concerns with that. Do you, Gary?
No, I don't.
JJ, any questions?
It takes time to
Okay.
study that.
So I mean, if that's where we are, I would make a motion to
We
accept.
just need a consensus. It's on a discussion,
I mean,
right?
it is on a discussion, but I can make a motion
You can make a motion for it.
if I wish.
Okay.
I mean, we're at a point where we can choose our insurance for the employees of the city. I talked with Rhonda to make sure that the numbers that she brought us here are still the correct numbers, because when she brought it to them, she said, they were subject to change. She said, no, these are the numbers that we are working with from Blue Cross Blue Shield. We have budgeted plenty of money to continue with good insurance for the city employees this year. Throughout this year, give him the opportunity to look further into things and bring a more detailed recommendation as to what we should do moving forward, going into the next year. I think that's fantastic. That's kind of what we were wanting to get done this year. That never really happened. So that would be a great thing to do. But as far as the current insurance coverage for this coming year for the city employees, I believe we have enough information to make a motion based on this. And I would like to make.
Now, I want to clarify before you make a motion. So your motion is going to reflect and make a motion to give Mr. Lanning the consensus to evaluate the whole scope, but in your motion, you're saying that we are automatically going to give PIC the insurance contract without finding out any more information that you're supposed to get to us from USI?
Well,
I just want to clarify the motion. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that is what my motion is going to be. I mean, PIC already has the insurance contract.
It does. Now, the reason that I say that, you can make that motion, but of all fairness to a missing commissioner who initiated the process since last year, I think that we've discussed and we've made it completely exposed to the employees that what we would be looking at is considering changing, or at least having the discussion of entertaining to bring USI in with no reflection of additional insurance costs to the employees. So with that being the case, I don't believe that it would be a proper formality with a commissioner that's gone, that initiated the process. And at one time, at the last meeting, if you look back at the minutes, you recommended that you would bring back a recommendation to us what you found out between PIC and USI in the differences. So in that case, I would, if you would make the motion, I think I know how I'm going to vote, because we have to give latitude, there's been so much discussion that's been going on here between USI and PIC, and I think Rhonda did a fantastic job. And I think that one of my main concerns was, to USI, will the employees still be able to have the ability to go to Denver as they hold right now with no infiltration? And he assured us that they would. So that's, where my concern would be.
If I may.
Sure.
I think I have a suggested motion at the bottom of the page that I think demonstrates what I'm looking for. I think in that system, I'm contemplating renewing our current medical policy with our current provider, knowing that 2021 is going to be an evaluation year. In that system, as I said, there are so many complicating factors. I've had multiple conversations with multiple providers, and I'm still not quite 100% sure what I understand. The only way I'm going to do that is to write an RFP. But we are going to understand that going forward, that I think for my purposes, that we're going to work within the system we have, do the RFP to it. The RFP is not only going to evaluate providers, and it will provide a recommendation in that venue, it's also going to evaluate the products and plans that they can bring to us. And so we're going to have a comprehensive scope. And at the end of the year, or we might know by mid-year, we might know by July or August, that the path that we're going to take. And of course, that path could be status quo, which I think my understanding is of concern from at least a cost perspective, or we could be working with an entirely new system. The idea being in all of it is to maintain our product as best we can and reduce our costs. And I don't think there's a magic bullet to that. I think it just takes a lot of hard work to figure that out. And again, I'll say in the conversation is, probably not very popular, but staff contributions. I mean, just if you think about it for a second, 20%, 10% takes $90,000 out of play that you put into a capital project, or 20% takes 180 grand out. So, you got to look at those things as we move forward. I think in that discussion, as we do retreats and strategic planning, there's also revenue sources. There's a lot of things that come into play in this discussion.
So I don't have any issue with that. My only concern is that you have a missing commissioner who initiated the process. And I don't have any problem. You say on your suggested, I moved to authorize the city manager to work with PIC to complete
the renewal,
which for medical insurance,
right?
And further authorize the city manager to develop a comprehensive RFP process for the evaluation of services providers and medical and property casualty insurance to recommend a structure. So that's two motions in one, and I don't have an issue with that. The issue that I have is that we're throwing USI completely out of according to the Mitch.
I see.
You see what I'm saying?
I don't think we're throwing USI out of the equation. What we're doing is I'm asking to continue basically with the current system, but evaluate it on a broader basis. For example, my question would be, I'm not sure that I'm confident enough to tell you that if we change providers, that you'd reduce your costs.
And I'm not concerned about the reduction of cost, Alan. The point that I'm trying to cross, that if we pass the motion, and Aaron's made his motion.
I haven't. I started to.
Yeah, and we have a second, okay? Then we'll be voting to make PIC for the rest of the 2021 year, right. And all we're looking at is giving, and Commissioner Brombach comes back and he votes, that I'm fine. The employees are not the concern here. The employees is making to bringing in which, representative do we want? Do we want to stay with PIC, or do we want to give USI the opportunity with no changes to the employees. That's the only thing that.
Well, that's the recommendation that he's saying right now is a month ago, we came in and he said he wanted a month to determine what his recommendation was.
Mhm.
His month has gone by. His recommendation is that we continue with our current insurance for this year so that he can
Well,
take the year.
We're continuing, well, both the insurance and the current provider in an effort to evaluate what's going forward.
Right.
That's right. So in that motion, then USI would not have any opportunity to come in and represent the city this year.
Well, at least not in the short term. And I wouldn't say that there's no opportunity for them. This is an evaluation process. But you've got to have somebody there that's going to be managing your system while you're evaluating the process.
If we vote, we can't come back and say, hey, we're going to change our minds now to what we're making. I mean, if we vote yes on PIC, it carries.
For the year.
We can't, exactly. I'm not gonna come back and flip-flop on the vote. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that I'm saying, but I just wanna make it perfectly clear that, that would be the actual motion. So we vote, we carry PIC through the rest of 2021. And without giving consideration to USI, and I just don't think it's the proper motion without Commissioner Brombaugh being here.
Understood.
So,
I think the consideration for USI has been made. It's been considered for months now.
Yes, I agree.
And we are at a point where we need to make a decision regarding our insurance. I am going to make the motion that we renew our insurance with the current insurance with the funding at max and the city paying 100%.
And I will second that motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any other questions or concerns? Before, I have a few. When I vote on this motion, I'm not voting against not paying 100%. I'm simply voting no on the basis that I don't believe it is fair representation with a commissioner who initiated this process and not being at the meeting. And I think, at that particular meeting, when he comes back, it could go the way that it goes right there, but I just don't feel comfortable voting yes on the motion. So that's my two.
But why isn't that commissioner here? He knew about the meeting. He should be here. Unless he's got something medical. He could have been here tonight.
I can't be a spokesman for anybody else or.
It's not our fault that he isn't here and the motion's on the floor. So.
Sure. Absolutely. No, I consider, I just want to make some clarifications on the deal. So any other questions or concerns?
Just vote on it.
All right. Mary, read the vote.
Howard,
Yes.
Ferris,
No.
Thompson,
Yes.
Brumbaugh, Garcia.
No. So you can bring it back at the next
So-
meeting, Alan.
Bring it back to the next.
So what exactly are you wanting him to bring back?
It doesn't matter. He's going to be here when we vote.
Well,
This is
but here's is just a
Because
respect. Here's the only, you asked me a question and I'm going to respond to it kindly. What he is going to be educated on, as we all have for since June or July, at the last meeting, we decided to postpone the vote based upon a recommendation being brought back as to which, agent we wanted to represent.
Which he did.
He did. But Commissioner Brombaugh is not here. Okay.
Okay.
So it's fair play.
Do we have a quorum of commissioners?
Huh?
Do we have a
Yes.
quorum of commissioners?
You've made the
Okay.
motion, it's been seconded, it's been voted on.
It's been voted. It's going to have to be.
It went through the
Okay,
fair
so you're
play.
saying you voted no due to the fact that JD was not here to vote?
Exactly. And that I wasn't voting no because I'm saying that I didn't want to pay the 100% on the insurance.
So if JD was here to voice his vote,
He's
would you
not
have voted
here, we
yes?
voted. That's it.
Yeah, he was here, but you're right. The recommendation was that Alan was going to bring back
And he
a
did.
recommendation. And he did, and we have followed the true democratic process of putting a motion and a second on the floor has been voted. So you'll bring it back on.
I'll bring it back on the 19th and, try to garner some additional information for you. But I'll bring it back on the 19th.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? So we move on to item number 6, report city manager, Alan.
Next meeting will be on the 19th on Tuesday instead of Monday, the 18th. I wanted to make you aware that in terms of Topside Aquatics, it was brought to my attention that in their billing for this, one of the conditions for approval was that they had to have a meter installed. They have not installed the meter. So we are going to bill them at the regular rate. And then once the meter is installed, we will refund amounts to them as required in the difference of the rates. But from a policy perspective and code perspective, that's the way we feel that we need to bill it. Just making you aware of that in case anybody comes to you and makes you aware of that.
To be Mr. Unpopular again here. Seem to be good at that lately. I mean, that they don't have their meter put in yet. I mean, do we, once they get it installed, do we refund their costs back to when the motion was made? Because I don't know that that was part of the motion, that they get refunded based on when they get their meter installed. It was contingent on the fact that they install their meter.
I wasn't here for all those discussions, so I'll just have to tell you in the spirit of it, I think that the commission has said, here's your rate. It's conditioned on this. Once you meet that condition, you get that rate. And so whether it's refunding back payments or whatever, now if they go forward without putting in the meter, we just continue to charge them that. And at some point you get to make another decision and say, you still got to put in the meter, but we're not going to refund it.
Yeah, and I mean, you weren't here, you're right, and I don't, maybe we can go back and look, but I would be under the impression that their rate would start once they got their meter installed. But we might have to go back and just revisit that, I guess.
Any other thing?
Another thing I'm going to add an agenda item that says approval of the agenda. It's going to be right before public comment, and that is going to address Commissioner Thompson's request about amending the agenda. So at the beginning of every meeting, you'll have a chance to approve the agenda as it stands or make an amendment by consensus of the council. That in my mind, it's you make policy, but that would be the policy. Agenda items amendments are introduced, consensus moves it forward, or it's not moved forward. In the same vein that if we're sitting here at the table and one of you says, Alan, I want you to do this, respectfully, I can say, no, I'm not going to do that unless I have consensus. And so it's sort of the same idea, just so you know.
Yeah, and I think we handled it very professionally. I mean, we have surely want to abide, and that's why when we decided to vote for mayor, I may, say, hey, if we have the consensus and you got mine, I said, I have no problem, with it. Let's get it done and over with. And I think you're absolutely right. That's the way it should be. You have to have a consensus of the majority, otherwise you're wasting your time. Okay. All right.
I think that's fine. I do feel though that if we're going to add a line in the agenda, that we should change the ordinance first, because the ordinances, the governing body ordinance does have a section in there where it does list what our sections are in the order that they're supposed to be in. So if we're going to add a new section in there that's not on this list, it should probably be amended beforehand before we
And we can do that. I just interpret that as minimum requirements that you have to have in the agenda. I don't know that it says you can't add other items or line items.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just reading what it says here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can read it if you want real quick. But.
Yeah, I'm relying on the city clerk's expertise here to.
Okay.
So all he's saying is that under consent agenda, who would put an item that says amend the agenda if we need to amend it.
it would be call to order,
Uh-huh.
and then it would say agenda approval, number 2.
Okay.
And that would be a chance where people can add agenda items and put them under where they want.
Yeah, so he's wanting to put it under number 2. He's wanting to add another
Yeah.
section
Yeah.
within the agenda,
Yeah.
which, being a stickler for the ordinances here, you know, we have a list of what our ordinances are and what the list of the agenda items, and
I'll get a legal opinion on it.
that's good. Or we can just add it to the ordinances. I mean, it'd be that simple too.
Okay. Any other thing, Alan? All right. Any questions for Alan? If not, I move on to Commissioner's report. I'm going to start over here with Aaron.
I have nothing else.
All right. JJ?
I'm good.
All right. You're good. Good. Mayor's report. Nothing. Just wish that everybody had a great, happy new year. Looking forward to the upcoming 2021. Alan, I did have a constituent come in and ask me, and maybe Dustin or Mary can get more information about the those swags down on Main Street that we talked about. Remember last month? She really likes those, and she wanted to know, you know, if we could put some more in. But she wanted to know, do we have any rough idea what those things cost?
About 4,000 a piece, I believe.
Huh?
4,000.
Those swags? 4,000 a piece? Wow.
Quality costs money.
3. We've got 3 of those, right? Wow. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, and those were added at 4,000, so there was $12,000 spent on those things then.
There was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did them different years.
Yeah, different times, 4,000. Okay, well, I can get, you know, that to her. That's all that I have. And if there's no or other business to discuss, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a motion by Commissioner Parrish. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Howard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming, and we'll stay in touch.
We aren't gonna have-